My guest is going to be joining us in a bit. We're going to be talking with Professor Pat Utomi, and he will be talking to us about the merger that's in the works between the the PDP, the Labour Party, and the NNPP, and maybe any other person who wants to, who's interested in joining that merger. About it, we're also going to look at some of the issues that the Labour Party has with the budget. We're going to be talking about the workabilities and the intricacies of, creating a merger in today's Nigeria and putting it side by side. What happened when the APC was created in the country. My guest is joining me right now in a bit. I think that he has joined us. Well, I say thank you to my guest for joining us. Professor Pat Utomi is an economist. He's also a management expert. He is also a politician, very renowned. One we could categorize as an elder statesman. Thank you so much, Professor Utomi, for joining us, and Happy New Year is in order.
Happy New Year, and it's a great pleasure to be able to join you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I know I've been on your nerves every day. I'm reminding you not to forget about the interview. It's so good that you can make it. I mean, there's so many things that we could discuss in this very little hour that we have, but let me start by asking what you make of, the idea of a merger, because I was talking about it, a merger between the PDP, the Labour Party, and the NPP. The reason why I ask is, at the helm of the affairs of these parties, there are three strong men who also have been eyeing that coveted seat of the presidency. Yes, maybe they did not win in the elections, but these are prominent gentlemen. How easy would it be to have a merger, form a merger, to wrest power from the APC?
Well, first of all, a few clarifications. It is not a merger. It is the founding of a party. Those three parties would probably be amongst other parties involved in this founding of a brand new political party. And the most important thing is that this is Nigeria first. It's not about the egos of anybody. Nigeria first. For a variety of reasons, our country is severely challenged. I think there's no patriot, it doesn't matter what his party inclination is, no patriot is happy with where Nigeria is. And any really studied analysis will show that part of the problem is first and foremost the nature of our politics and the nature of our political parties as we have known them since 1999. And I put this in context because in 2012, the leadership newspaper, worried about the way things were going with political parties and how it was affecting national performance, actually had their annual lecture around that subject, political parties. And I was privileged to be the one who was asked to give that lecture. It was in Abuja, at the Sheraton Hotel. And almost all of those who became the leading members of the APC when it was founded were sitting on the high table at that lecture. And I went way out of my way to really describe what a political party should be. I went as far back as the 1911 book written by an Italian-German fellow called Roberto Michels, titled Political Parties. From that book comes a concept that most students of political science get very excited about when they, and you go around the campus, when they first learn about it, they're all chanting that he who says organization says oligarchy, the iron law of oligarchy, which basically says the political parties in their nature become oligarchic. And part of what you do to run a political party that serves the best interest of the people is to work it around this understanding of the nature of the sociology of political parties. I then basically went on to say that one of the most important things that political parties do, first, pull a set of ideas together that define how you see the world. Mm-hmm. Some people call this ideology. Some people say the worldview. Mm-hmm. But there is something that you believe in that makes you come to a political party. I'm not sure you can show me what any of the people who have gone from PDP to APC, back to APDP, and on to it can say about the way they see the world. Mm. So clearly that's one of the central problems with Nigeria. Mm-hmm. The fact that the political parties don't really stand for anything. So in looking at how poorly we have performed as a country, it became clear that we needed a new approach. Okay. And basically what some of us who have tried to work this path through the years have done is to talk to these players and say, look, what is more important, that you become president and your name is lost in history as one of those footnotes of a country that failed? Or do you want to have a proper political party that can rise to the problems of the country? Because one, it has clear ideology. Two, it has clear values. Three, it has structures that engage the people. I give a small example about structure and what I mean. I'm sort of acquainted with the policy of South Africa, in spite of the challenges that they have had. Mm-hmm. I served on the boards of 2 or 3, even 3 South African companies, and at the point I was going to Johannesburg every month for meetings. And one of the things about the way the ANC is organized is that at the ward level, they have meetings at the ward level in which they discuss policy. Mm-hmm. So they educate the people about the issues. How many Nigerians even know what is in this Nigerian constitution we keep complaining about? We don't educate the people. They're completely disconnected from the political parties and from the system. And so they cannot hold the political parties and the system accountable for service to the people. In addition to this, a political party needs to have a clear strategy for the party and national strategy that is subscribed to. One of the big problems of Nigeria is that we don't have a clear national strategy. Look, many years ago, I wrote a book titled Managing Uncertainty, Competition and Strategy in Emerging Economies. And I looked at why Southeast Asian economies were emerging. You can see a clear link between national strategy, how investors, wherever they come from, respond to that national strategy, the strength of their institutions, and how this gives confidence to those investing communities, and how this translates directly into growth and development in these countries. The African state today should be a developmental state. But our country has managed to be, unfortunately, just a place where elites bargain for their share of the booty. So you've got really armies of occupation as quote unquote state capture, and the object is how we share the spoils of whatever oil revenues are coming. This has affected Nigeria's growth and development. So if we first of all build a political party, a real political party, where we have all of these things in place, where we develop policy planks that are debated in the party across the board, put to the people, and are accepted, you will get people backing certain ideas of policy. Once people back those ideas of policies, it makes it easier to implement. And when we implement them, then we can see investments follow, and we can see growth, and we can see development. Okay. Unfortunately, we've not gone about it that way, and that's why we are. So what we want to do, first of all, is build a political party. Great. Take away individual egos and all of that. And when we build a political party, then based on the values of those parties, of the party, sorry, people can select whoever they want. Can be a 35-year-old who has just emerged from nowhere. Can be a 90-year-old. After all, Malaysia had to return to Mahathir Mohamad at 90 to rescue it from where it used to be. And Mahathir had to make peace with Anwar Ibrahim, who was his deputy in 1997 before things fell apart so badly that Anwar Ibrahim got sent to jail and all kinds of things. a whole generation afterwards, they realized that what is at stake for Malaysia is bigger than their personal differences, is bigger than anything, and they got back together. Mahathir finished a portion of the term. Anwar is now Prime Minister of Malaysia. So we can work these things through once it is Nigeria first.
Okay.
Not the egos that people are running with.
I have so many questions, and I mean, you've said so many things. My brain is, but I want to start with, forming this new political party, as you said. I mean, the Labour Party, if you ask me, is the Labour Party anywhere in the world, whether it be in the United Kingdom, whether it be in the UK, the US. It is the Labour Party because that is what it is. Labour is standing for the dignity of the people who are the laborers, people who make the economy run. And so they have a clear-cut, ideology
Absolutely.
of sorts, even though in Nigeria it might not be the case. But why not make the Labour Party that you are in, recreate it if it's an ideological reason for wanting to create a new party? Again, you talked about the fact that Nigerians are not educated in terms of what our constitution has, as laws and, is that not a deliberate thing? Because again, I have spoken with the former commissioner for voter education with INEC at the time, and I asked him, why is it that the job of voter education is the onus is only on INEC and the NOA that's half past dead, as opposed to what the Constitution
That's
says.
the main reason for political parties existing.
Exactly.
Which is why I say they are not political
Exactly.
parties.
So this is my question.
Yes.
Is it not a deliberate thing on the part of these political parties to keep Nigerians in the dark? Hence why we're here running around in circles.
Well, it's a deliberate thing in a certain manner of speaking, but it's not like they got together and say, let's keep them from knowing. It's deliberate in the sense that, look, there are motivations for people who go into public life. There's a friend of mine who's a professor of political science at Johns Hopkins University in the United States. And he has this thesis that what happened in 1999 was that the political class had been shut out from power for so long by the soldiers that they more or less reached an unwritten agreement that they will shut out the military and share the booty as best as they can. But somehow in that structuring, they didn't quite think of the people. And so it comes down to something I speak about very often, where Nigeria's democracy is a government of politicians, for politicians, by politicians. The central issue in Nigerian politics are the politicians. So when they say, they chop money, they did this, I laugh. What else are they going to do? They have not thought of anything else but how to chop money. So let's build something that is a political party that exists because of the people, for the people. And Labour, and I'll tell you a little bit about the history of the Labour Party in the UK and how it emerged. You see, in the late 19th century, in the 1890s, thereabout, as Industrial Revolution was running, and capital treated labor with contempt as a chattel, literally. Life was mean and terrible in Britain. People who wrote literature, like Charles Dickens, wrote a Tale of Two Cities, and so on and so forth. A group of British intellectuals wanted to change things. They found it dangerous, because these entrenched capitalists would do anything to destroy, do anything to anybody they see is organizing. So they began to meet in pubs. And so they were dismissed as a bunch of drunkards. But they would go to the back of the pub and have a serious conversation. The people who ran the pubs protected them, and nobody knew what they were doing. They just thought they were a bunch of drunken intellectuals coming to a pub. In the meetings they had in the back room there, they were thinking of strategy of how they could massively educate the British people about what is going on and their rights and all of that. how they would massively organize. And as they kept talking about massively, somebody said it reminded him of a strategy that saved Rome. But back in those days, when Hannibal ran the greatest army in the world, Hannibal of Carthage laid siege on Rome. And there was no question Rome was gone, you know. And a Roman general called Quintus Fabius Maximus decided that he was going to come up with a strategy of massive guerrilla attacks coming from everywhere, so completely different from conventional warfare. And he managed to confuse Hannibal, and Hannibal's army surrendered, So they said, okay, let's take our name from that general. As I said, his name was Fabius. And they chose to call themselves the Fabians. When you hear the Fabian Society, yes, Fabian socialism, that's where it comes from. So this group called themselves the Fabians. And they created even a university to spread their ideas. That university is what we know as the London School of Economics today. And then they created a political party, the Labour Party. That's where the Labour Party comes from, that we know today in the UK. And then they used massive education of people to overwhelm the order with the thoughts of Fabian socialism as we know it today. That's what changed the course of British history. And a group of us meeting under a tent, if you will, that I created, began to call ourselves the New Fabians about a year and a half ago.
Okay.
And so it is the organizing of the New Fabians that became part of what the third force is. That one of us in that meeting, the senior advocate of Nigeria, Femi Falana, then said the labor unions can be made to retrieve the Labour Party. And we could then use the Labour Party as the basis. That's how we all joined the Labour Party, which was alienated at that point from the labor unions. NLC then re-embraced the Labour Party, and we're going to use it. So the basic ideology of where we're going is worker-based. But it is not the kind of worker anti-capital thinking, because you can't create wealth without capital. And so we're thinking of a people's capitalism in which massive entrepreneurship empowers people and enables them to produce their way out of poverty. This is the fundamental base of the philosophy that we're trying to espouse. Owners of capital, who may be big men, may have a mea culpa and realize that without
Professor, are you still there?
labor, they cannot function and embrace labor. Economies in Europe, Germany, has a, if you want to call it, structure, convention, that and it means that labor must sit on every board of directors of a company. So there is a labor capital relationship in Germany that is brilliant that we want to bring back here. There is also something that you can take away from Germany, the apprenticeship system, Ausbildung, that we want to match with the learning from Igbo apprenticeship scheme to create mass entrepreneurship. These people's capitalism that will lead to producing and living consumption that is an elite thing of rent-seeking people who clutched onto oil and are extracting it and sharing amongst themselves and don't know how to create wealth.
Professor, we have to go for a quick break. When we come back, I want to talk about, because we can't talk about this whole thing without the people who are who make up the team. So we'll be right back after this break. Stay with us.
Lagos, it's a new year and you made it, yes. But you know how they say that the month of January is so long, like 2 months in one. And usually you will just say, oh, we move. But wait, hold on, move where? Is it with Sakpa on the move? Lagos, I'm sure you remember that after dirty December comes clear eye January. So please, where do you want to move to without money? How do you want to do it? Well, you don't need to bother your head because I've come with your solution. Yes, oneplay.ng, Lagos. You heard me right, oneplay.ng. Well, this time around, oneplay.ng has decided to up the stakes. And guess what? You're still playing with 500 naira. The amount on ground now is 120,000 naira to 190,000 naira daily on Nigeria Info. You heard me right. All you have to do to partake in this is just go to oneplay.ng and play with 500 naira. Yes, that's the website, Lagos. www.oneplay.ng and play with 500 naira, and your name could be the name of the next winner here on Nigeria Info. And if you don't have a smartphone, calm down, not to worry. All you have to do is dial *347 *880 *3 hash. And if you know that you can't follow the code and you don't like the instructions that are coming after the code, well, you can avoid the stress. All you have to do is go to the website at www.oneplay.ng. There's money to be won on Morning Crossfire. There's also money to be won on WhatsApp Lagos. There's money to be won on Sunnyside, I know. And there's also extra money to be won on Game On. So Lagos, what are you waiting for? What is your issue there? Don't complain about Sapa. The more you play, the better your chances of winning. Remember, dial *347 *880 *3 hash, *347 *880 *3 hash, or you just go to the website at www.oneplay.ng and win yourself some of that money. Don't let this opportunity pass you by, because like I say, I could have won a lot, but I'm giving this to you, so please make good use of it and thank me later.
This is
Collins, your eyes are always sharp and clear despite your prolonged stay on the computer. What's your secret?
My guy, it is Visual Gain, my nutritional eye support. Visual Gain, an eye antioxidant effective in the management and prevention of glaucoma and cataract. A balanced formula for healthy eyes and good vision. A perfect blend of lutein, bilberry fruit extract, zeaxanthin, vitamin A, and zinc. It protects the eyes from harmful UV rays. It prevents and treats dry, red, and irritable eyes. It also maintains image clarity, visual acuity, and reduces eye fatigue. Marketed and distributed by Almond Ethicals Limited, a registered trademark of Gain World. Available in pharmacies near you.
Use Visual Gain today to maintain a healthy eye.
Win big with First Bank. 170 million naira up for grabs. Open an account, deposit 5,000 naira for 30 days, transact 5 times on our digital channels, and stand a chance to win 100,000 naira monthly. Or deposit 50,000 naira monthly for 4 months for a chance to be the 1 million naira grand finale winner. Join First Bank's Win Big promo now. This promo runs till February 23rd, 2024. Open to new and existing account holders. Terms and conditions apply. You first. First Bank.
No matter what I do, you love me unconditionally. You show up for me every day, no matter when I show you.
A mother's love is unconditional. Nothing serves this love better than a bowl of Indomie. So, show some love with Indomie.
Show me love. You show me love.
Connection is very important, especially when it's strong, and you don't realize this until you are cut off. Keep your connection strong at home or on the go with Airtel Home Broadband Internet. Get any of our devices, like the 7,500 MiFi or the 10,000 router with instant 30 gigabytes or the 20,000 router with instant 100 gigabytes. Hurry to the nearest Airtel shop or visit www.airtel.com.ng/HBB to get started.
Airtel, a reason to imagine.
It is easier to talk of poverty than to think of the poor.
Our godfather to negotiate with the European Union by December this year. 4,000 MOUs will be deployed in Europe.
To create a minimum standard of life below which no human being can fall is the elementary duty of the democratic state.
Kill corruption in our society. Let the poor breathe. Don't suffocate them.
133 million Nigerians in multi-dimensional poverty is an open veldt.
We're seeing in Nigeria today, it's a tragedy that we are all witnessing, because as we see things falling apart, the pressure instead is corruption.
And the people rail.
So the poor now is choking. The poor is suffocating.
Against politicians who equivocate.
People are not going to vote because everybody's angry with the government.
Theorize, postulate, dramatize.
I cannot vote anybody. I cannot vote for anybody.
again.
While the trite politics reduce even our very culture to the level of our poverty. And so, you must know that not chance, not odds, but choice is the most fortunate of our options. The people must choose the state. On Nigeria Info. Coming soon.
You are listening to your number one station for talk.
Your number one station for talk.
99.3 Nigeria Info. Let's talk.
Millions of listeners trust us on Hard Facts. Whether it's politics, social issues, controversies, and trending stories, you know we're credible and objective.
It's Hard Facts with Marian Okon on 99.3 Nigeria Info.
Yes, it is still Hard Facts, 99.3 Nigeria Info. We're broadcasting live from our audiovisual studios right here in Utomi and Crescent, Victoria Island, Lagos. My name is Marian Okon. I still have with us via Zoom Professor Utomi, and we're talking about the creation, in his words, of a new type of political party, one that would carry us along. Again, in his words, not a political party that's made for politicians, by politicians, and their benefits. Anyway, Professor, before we went on that break, you were trying to explain to me, you know, the idea behind creating this political party. But let's talk about the people that you might or you have been having these conversations with and want to bring on board. For example, let's look at an Atiku Abubakar, who, if we're being very clear, was one of the reasons why your presidential candidate, Peter Obi, left the People's Democratic Party and moved to the Labour Party. Let's also talk about a Kwankwaso who, in the middle of all of the preparations leading up to the elections, there were, in quote, talks that there could have been a merger of sorts to be able to stand against the APC and the PDP at the time, and he said no. So the big question is, what changes when you bring new you bring new wine into old wine skin? I mean, isn't that going to one way or the other destroy the idea of this very grand plan that you have?
Well, I think that it is not a matter of new wine, old wine, wine skins, and all of that. What we are trying to build is essentially a brand new platform. Okay, they're going to be founders, they're going to be joiners. The most important thing is the platform, not any individuals. What it represents in terms of what we would like to see Nigeria become, how it will do it. When we are all agreed on this, then the question of those who constitute its, if you will, leadership comes up. And what will determine it is how these people align to those ideas that we agree to and put on the ground as how we serve the Nigerian people. Because bottom line is Nigerian people. That's why I said this is a Nigeria first project. Now, if somebody who has had a perspective in the past feels that time is running out on him to leave a legacy, and that legacy may be as father of the nation, and is willing to join up with others he has contested the arena with previously. That's why I told the story of Mahathir Mohamad and Anwar Ibrahim, because I was very close to that whole thing. I still remember Hong Kong, October 1997, World Bank annual meetings, Anwar Ibrahim and Mahathir Mohamad, Deputy Prime Minister and Finance Minister and Prime Minister. How the West played both of them and how it deteriorated so badly. When I left Hong Kong, I flew to Kuala Lumpur in Malaysia for a study visit attachment to Bank Negara Malaysia, the Central Bank of Malaysia. And I left from there to Jakarta. When I arrived Jakarta, the morning that I arrived Jakarta, checked into my hotel room, there was Time magazine and Newsweek magazine on my hotel room desk from that morning. On the cover was Anwar Ibrahim. Western media had set up Anwar Ibrahim as literally the preferred leader of Malaysia. And I said to myself, oh my God, Anwar Ibrahim is gone. And I sat down immediately and I wrote an op-ed piece that was faxed to The Guardian. And it was titled The End of Anwar Ibrahim. Within weeks, Anwar Ibrahim had been charged with sodomy. He was eventually jailed. He was dropped as deputy prime minister and all of that. If after all that bitterness, many years later, for the sake of Malaysia, when the Razak government was misbehaving, they would come back together, there's nothing that prevents any of these people to do a mea culpa and say, for Nigeria's sake, we will do this or that. But this is not going to be a party in which how much cash you have will determine what happens. Because that's what the problem has been in this other party. This will be a party in which how much love you have determines where you go.
But I can also pretend that I love the country because of the interest that I have, and then I'll play everyone until I get it. And we've seen this play out over and over again. There've been opportunities for these men to prove themselves, but they haven't. So why now?
We're not talking to dummies. There are people, smart people there. You know what the population distribution in this country is? 80% of those who will be in this party will be under the age of 30. And if everyone casts their vote, I'm not sure they will be looking at the size of your bank account when they cast that vote.
But political,
that's one thing that I will give my life for.
Professor Utomi, I want to believe you, and I really do want to believe you, but then money is what runs political parties in Nigeria, and that's not going to stop today, is it?
It must stop. If it does not stop, there will be no Nigeria in a few years. We are traveling the road to Somalia because of that. And so people will have an awakening. People will have, I don't know what, you know, an epiphany about a reality of who they are, where they must be going. Any of these things can make a nation turn away. Again, if I might just gratuitously, if you don't mind, return to Malaysia. This Mahathir Mohamad that I spoke about was once part of the group of politicians just getting along in those early days. He was part of the dominant party called UMNO, United Malay National Organization. And he was so disappointed at the way the party was carrying on that he described the prime minister as give and take prime minister. All you do is give, we don't see the taking that you are taking. And, you know, he was, of course, like Nigeria type politics, was immediately accused of anti-party activity. He was sacked from the party. He was fired as a junior minister. And he went out and wrote a book titled The Malay Dilemma. This book actually led to riots in Kuala Lumpur. Prime Minister Tuna Brooke Razak had to resign. When Mahathir came back, he realized that where the country was not going very far. He literally shot the elite into a room and said to them, we've got to travel a different path. We must agree how to go forward because it's best for everybody to be inside the house, piecing out, than for some to be outside the house, piecing in.
Okay.
And that led to the new economic policy, and Malaysia's story completely changed. I'm not sure why that cannot happen to Nigeria. I'm not sure why these men cannot even get together in the smoke-filled room like they used to have in Chicago and say to some 30-something-year-old young man, hey, run the country. We'll be behind you and give you firepower. If this will redeem Nigeria.
It sounds very interesting. I mean, very interesting. And I really want to believe this. And I want to see, I'm guessing like every Nigerian who's listening wants to see how this plays out. Again, because we've seen a lot of things play out right before us on the platforms of the different political parties as they keep cross-carpeting, defecting, and coming back for different interests, etc., etc. But I'm going to keep the questions and allow Lagosians to join in the conversation because I and people who are like me, journalists like me, have had to face these Nigerians, because we were in the forefront of saying, go out and vote. Your votes will count. This will happen. A change will come. And all of that was thrown back in our faces because none of all the things we promised them came to pass. How do we tell people again in this same breath to embrace what you're presenting to them? It's going to be a difficult job.
You forget that I'm one of the victims. I did more screaming of that than you did.
Okay.
And I've been doing that for 50 years.
Mm-hmm.
As a young reporter in this town, editor of one of the most influential magazines in this country in my early 20s. I forced cabinet reshuffles. I forced even the banning of the magazine by what I wrote. So I'm not spring chicken in this business. I've been a passionate person committed to the advance of the common good, the ordinary Nigerian, for 50 years.
Okay. Well, Lagos, the phone lines are open. Professor Utomi is here with us on the Big Hard Facts today, and we're talking about the creation of a new party, new ideology, something that we're not used to. And, well, in his words, a Nigeria-centric political party. Let's talk. If you've got questions, comments, join the conversation. We're live, facebook.com/Nigeria Info FM. We're also live on YouTube, Nigeria Info FM 99.3. If you're listening and watching from outside of the country, you want to be part of the conversation, we're live on Skype, we're Nigeria Info FM, but call 0700 993 993 993. Hello, welcome to Hard Facts.
Hello, good evening, Miriam.
Good evening.
Good evening, Prof.
Good evening.
Good evening, sir. My name is Mrs. Oboli.
Go ahead.
The idea of a new political party sounds interesting, just like Marianne said. Although I don't know how this would be possible, knowing that each of the people that will be coming together under this platform have different ideologies, manifestos, and what have you. But my question to you this evening is, if you remember what happened in the last election with what the APC government did, this grab, snatch, and run with it. So if I decide, or should I decide to vote for this new party, how will you make sure my vote counts? With everything, won't I be beaten to a pulp? How will you defend me when I come to the polling station? That's my question.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Oboli. I'll take one more question, Professor, before you answer it. Hello. Turn off your radio, please. Good evening.
Prof, good evening. My name is Michael Oba.
All right, Michael, go ahead.
Thank you for all you do. Mine is that I don't know if you want to share a bit of what happened to you in Delta State when you ran. Because, again, these politicians outsmarted you, not because you don't have what it takes, but something happened. If you can just share it without mentioning words, I'll be interested to know what happened. Then, more importantly, which is my question, you see, these politicians you are mentioning, the bad people outnumber the good people because we are going to select them amongst us. There are a lot of people waiting on the side to take over from them. Where would you get these righteous people like P2B, myself, yourself, and the like? Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you very much, Michael. Professor, would you want to give it a go?
Thank you, Mr. Boli. On the first question, I think raised the question about how do we defend our votes? How do we protect our votes? Look, our lives literally now depend on these votes. We've seen what they have done in the past, and we're going to prepare for them. I want to assure you, the international community, the local, everybody, but more importantly, the training that we provide. Now, one of the things that I'm going to announce this week is that we're looking for 10,000 community organizers in every state, volunteers, young people. For a variety of reasons, Barack Obama started his political life as a community organizer.
Mm-hmm.
We will organize them in such a way that they will organize the local communities they are in into cooperatives, give them advantages, possibilities, create entrepreneurial, industrial, all kinds of things, working with the people. The people will by then come to know that literally this is what their life depends on. And they will be ready to defend with their lives the vote that will take things forward for them. So building a truly people-centered party will help in this defense of the votes. Secondly, we will not allow, quote me, an election in this country that does not involve major electoral process reform that we can take even to an international criminal court. Because it means there's no point in an election. Let me be very honest with you. If I were 30 years younger, I would do a Paul Kagame after the last election. I would take on fatigues and go into the bush to liberate the people. Were I 30 years younger, last year, I would do it. But we are where we are.
And you're not a Paul Kagame. So
no, it's not because Paul is not smarter than me. I know him well.
I know, but you're not a Paul Kagame. So yes.
You know. Anyway, so the point is that we are going to take as building block for this party how to protect the vote, and everybody will know how to before the next vote.
Okay.
But we will leave that to strategy. That
in 1 minute, because of our time, in 1 minute, tell us about what happened to you in Delta. Yes.
You know, the Delta thing has been so badly misrepresented. I don't even know how to begin to respond to it. The myth they created became the narrative, which is very untrue. What happened was on the day of the so-called primaries, we all assembled in the party office to go to meet the committee that came to organize the primaries. It was led by one General Lawrence Onoja. Ibe Kachuku, who was a minister from Delta, was sitting there. We showed him that everything they had done was in violation of the process. Everything, not one or two, just everything. That there were people who came to fix something that they had rigged. And they kept saying, we are brothers, let's just go and do it. I mean, all kinds of not wrong. I recorded it. And I thought, this man became a general in the army? Are you kidding me? But that's the sad thing that happened to Nigeria. So after that, in fact, I was even going to go back because I'd been in the ground before. I was going to even go back there and prove a point. One of my followers blocked my car. He said, you can't go there. We know what they have planned. What's the point in going there to legitimize it? And Adam Soshomole, who was supposed to be a friend of mine, who was part of that conspiracy, still promises me that he will tell me what happened. I'm waiting to hear. But that's what happened.
Okay.
Because that's why I make a point that we don't have political parties. We don't have elections in Nigeria so far. What happened was a coup d'etat against the Nigerian people in the name of the ballot. And that's what we've seen repeatedly in elections. When you get bullies who use muscle, you see, when you cannot then respond another way, you turn to the way of bullies. That's why Somalia is where it is. And that's where they're going to lead Nigeria into if we don't do something that rescues Nigeria.
Okay. All right. I have just 3 minutes. I can take one quick call. Yeah. Basically, I think you covered most of it. But let me quickly go to WhatsApp because I see a lot of people with questions. Someone says, Marianne, please ask Professor Utomi how embittered he became when he was outsmarted. Okay, it's the same question that George is asking you. Okay, let me move away from that because you've answered it. Someone says, again and again, historical information, theories upon theories with notable practical experience. The so-called intellectuals that did not see every vote for every vote for Peter Obi was an indirect vote for APC. This is Kunle from Ibeju. Someone says, please help us tell Prof that Buhari's mouth in 2015 and Tinubu's mouth last year, sweet past him own. He says, our mumu don't reach, we no go gree for anybody. Rotimi from Costain. And quickly, this one says, since it's not a merger but a political party, then it will be made up of same politicians of the same existing political parties, same of the same. So, Professor, you can see that everyone who's responding feels like there's really no hope because it sounds to them like it's the same thing that's going to happen.
If we all decide that there is no hope, what happens? If we either become slaves, if there is no hope and there's nothing worth doing, welcome to slavery. If you can't jackbar, you are done. It's easier for me to jackbar, I think. I have a certain quote-unquote global reputation as an academic. I carry my briefcase. I can show up anywhere in the world and have an office within minutes. If I am committing to this, it means that my essence is caught up in the future of this country. So I understand the frustration they feel. It's fully understandable. And in many ways, I feel like those Fabians in the pub in England, that's how everybody must have felt, giving up England. But today, we know England is different because they chose not to give up.
Finally, Professor, let me add my last question before we wrap up, because we have just a minute. It's going to take a long time to be able to implement most of those things that you're saying. I mean, you've called for people in communities. You want to build from the bottom up. And then with this attitude that people already are, we don't care, the system is already rigged, there's no need. How easy do you think this will be for you in preparation for these elections that are coming in 4 years? How easy is it going to be for you? A task might be daunting if you ask me.
By the way, it doesn't start in 4 years. It starts now. We're not looking at elections. We're looking at changing the society now.
Okay.
And working at it from now. And, again, I look at history and I learned so many things from it. About how things you think impossible, somebody you think won't do something does it. Favorite example I like to give, World War II, coming towards an end. Hitler realizes that with the Allied invasion of mainland Europe, time is short for him. So he wants a scorched earth strategy. He calls the general von Collitz and says, "Is Paris burning? Burn down Paris." And his general put on his uniform, went in front of the mirror and said, "Why should history remember me as the man who destroyed the most beautiful city in the world?" And he called the Allied forces to come in and take Paris. Long story, but eventually ragtag French forces led by Charles de Gaulle moved in and took Paris without resistance.
Well, Professor Utomi, always
anything can happen.
Okay.
Including those who are in power today, saying we've raped our country enough, we want something different.
All right,
so
Professor,
that history will free us.
Professor, because of time, I want to say thank you so much for coming, Professor Utomi. We appreciate you. Thank you.
Lagos, it's a new year and you made it. Yes, but you know how they say that the month of January is so long? Like 2 months in one. And usually
99.3 Nigeria Info. We are more than just radio. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Nigeria Info FM. Check us out on Facebook at Nigeria Info 99.3. Follow us on Twitter at Nigeria Info FM and on Instagram at Nigeria Info FM Lagos for live updates as it happens.